Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to the Tales of Reddit, and a huge welcome back to what might possibly be what are the actually. I mean, just the title of this alone sounds really, really cool. I saved a man's life, and I never saw him again. 10 years later, this is still the craziest thing that has ever happened to me. You know what? I'm gonna cut the jibber jabber and just sort of get straight to the point. So previously, it was a tale about this woman who took very strong sleeping tablets on a plane, and they all thought she was dead, and she just kind of was hunched over like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and well, she was fine. She just sort of was a little bit dazed and confused. Now I want to know about how he managed to save this guy's life. In high school, I worked as a lifeguard at a country club for a few summers to earn some money. It was a cushy gig. It was for country club members only, so a large part of the job was learning people's names and interacting with them. Mostly just saying, "Good morning, Mr. Garrity," and listening to some generic mumbling about millennials. Well, over the 4th of July weekend, there were more people at the pool than usual. Each member could sign in one guest, and there was a middle-aged man jumping off the diving boards who I'd never seen before. He was over 6 feet, at least 230 pounds, and was doing gainers off the low dive into the pool to make big splashes to impress his country club member friends. Well, one particular jump he got a running start, never a good start, and slipped off the board at the very end. His momentum was already leaning backwards to do the jump, and his body came off the board a few feet, and his head rotated backwards and smacked right into the diving board. I can still hear that cracking sound in my mind. I'm sitting 8 feet off the ground in the lifeguard chair at the diving well, watching this all go down. And I am praying that I don't have to do anything, even though I knew shit was about to go down. I didn't see any blood, which was a good sign, but as I watched his body sink down, I counted 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, no movement. Fuck. I blew 3 short tweets on the whistle. The condensed to signal to the other guards that I would need the neck board, and jumped in with my boy, making as little of an impact as possible in the water. My lifeguard training took over as I dove down 8 to 9 feet to grab this dude. He was out, just making no movement whatsoever. Like I said, he was a big dude, but he wasn't as heavy in the water as I grabbed him and kicked us both to the surface. I hoisted him onto the buoy and swam over to the edge, where by now the other guards had stuck the board down into the water. I lined up his limp body with the board as we worked together to strap him into the board. The other guards pivoted the boards out of the water while I climbed out. I took a half-second look around to see a half-dozen shocked faces, and it became clear to me that this was my show. Great. Still obeying my adrenaline-fueled rote memory of my training, I shouted for someone to call an ambulance as I made a decision. See, I thought he probably had a neck injury. The board he was strapped into is designed to not move his head, so he doesn't further injure his neck or back, but he wasn't visibly breathing, so I had to save his life at whatever cost it took, or at least that's what my 16-year-old brain decided. So I started chest compressions. What they don't tell you about chest compressions is that you are breaking shit. You can feel bones and cartilage cracking under your palms. It feels horrible. I still haven't been able to shake that feeling. 1 round of 30, and then I did 2 breaths into his mouth. His head was already tilted back a bit from being in the board, so I didn't have to move his neck. After 2 breaths, I went back to chest compressions, and after 5 or 6 little, water leaked out of his mouth. I coughed a few times, and the other guards picked up the board and whisked him away so fast I didn't even know what happened. I rolled over onto the concrete, a tinnitus ringing in my head, my heart racing, just sitting there taking it in. I went into some trance as my teenage body struggled to deal with what just happened. Start to finish probably only took about 6 minutes, but it felt like a lifetime of stress and nausea had built up in my body. I was walked over to the guard shack, dried off, and walked up to the country club's nicer member buildings. The manager, who was a friend's dad and had gotten me into the job, sat down with me as we talked about what happened. I gave him the basic details, signed some documents, and was sent home for the day. Like I said, I was in some kind of trance and was just operating on autopilot. I'm not sure how much sense I was making at the time, and it took me several hours to process what just happened. I came back from my shift a few days later, and I was told by another lifeguard that the guy was okay. I was thanked profusely by the member who brought him as a guest, but I never saw that guy again. This was still the craziest thing that has ever happened. I'm glad my instincts took over and I remembered my training. I might not have done everything exactly right, but I tried my best, and at the end of the day, he lived through it. I hope that guy's doing okay. I like that one, guys. You know what? Here's the thing I gotta say about that. 10 years ago, coming up, when I was with the NCS, I had to do first aid training, and thankfully I've never actually had to ever resort to doing first aid training, even because either because of one or two things. One, nothing ever went wrong, and two, there were things that were happening that were, well, to be honest, a little bit beyond my control. I mean, I saw some people who've either were having a seizure, or they had some sort of overdose on the metros down in Newcastle. So, like, how to deal with stuff like that? You just have to, sit them down, and you have to, like, tilt their heads in a certain way, so if they vomit, they don't, they don't choke or anything like that, and everything comes out. One thing I do have to absolutely give this guy his moxie for is the fact that, you know what, he did what anybody else would have done. And you know what, that level of responsibility, especially when you're having to save somebody's life, it could be at 16, it could be at 66. All you have to do is you have to go with your instinct. You've got to know, at moments like that, you have to know absolutely what the right thing to do is, and you just have to get on with it. All credit to that dude for saving somebody's life, because I don't know about you guys, but saving somebody, I've never actually had to do it myself, but I think saving somebody's life goes a lot further than you probably might ever think. It's probably the sort of thing you're never really going to ever forget, because you never know, guys. One of these days, somebody might be responsible for saving my life. But we'll wait and see what happens there. But apart from that, I like that. That was just a really, really good, passionate, filled story. And may God be with you all, and I'll see all of you guys again next time. Thank you.